You also got an observer position here in, I think, a few years ago when you were still a medical student in Harvard, and you got some funding for it. Can you walk us through that and share that story?
Yeah, you guys, you probably realize that like all my stories about getting paid positions and trying to run a business to get money to pay for medical school. So also when I was in med school, I've always wanted to come to the US since I'm a little kid. I love Boston, by the way. The weather right now is my favorite. Winter is my favorite season. And even though I was born in Salvador, Bahia, because I grew up watching the movies and the academic system that I saw in the movies, the college experience, and all these big institutions that I now like work with or collaborate with or have mentors in. Those were my dreams when I was a kid. So when I decided to do medicine, I decided to do medicine because that was a journey that could get me closer to what I really wanted. That was to move outside of Brazil for personal goal, to explore another culture. So that's what I did. And when I was in medical school, I really wanted to have an experience that could confirm to me what I think I wanted, was to ultimately move out. But since as a kid, I never had the experience to go to Disney or to experience something outside of Brazil, that was my moment to do it, because I knew as soon as I graduated, I have to decide what I wanted to do. So I met, this is a great story actually, also in the pandemic, I was running the PowerPoint business and I watched this online lecture with Dr. Andre Davila, who came here to the podcast. You should see his episode. He's amazing. A great mentor of mine. I watched this episode on YouTube that another student from the southern part of Brazil posted on YouTube. I remember that I was fascinated by his story because I could see a lot of myself in his story. He told about his struggling as a research fellow, as a clinical fellow, how he moved out of Brazil to another culture. And I really wanted to reach out to him. And I was like, I got to know in this lecture that he was coming to Beth Israel, which is another affiliated hospital at Harvard. And I was like, how can I talk to him? He's Brazilian, but he was in the US. And I tried every single way to get his email out of Google, but I couldn't, because he was transitioning to another institution. And then I reached out to this student. Now we're friends and we laugh about this story. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm a student from Salvador. I really wanted to meet this doctor that you posted a video with. I was fascinated by his story. Could you ask him if he could give me his email? And the guy was like, I don't really know who she is, so I don't think I'm going to share the email like this. So he was just like, no, he prefers not to share the email. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to give up. Again, being very resilient. I opened Google and I was like, okay, I'm going to find his email right now. I found this Curriculum Lattes, which is the platform in Brazil for CVs, and I found his profile in there, but there was no email. So I sent an email to the website asking to contact him, to give him my email. So I was like, okay, if he is willing to talk to me as a student, he's going to reach out probably. A day after, he reached out to me with his phone number.
Wow.
He's very approachable, very accessible. Even though he's a great scientist, a great doctor, he's always so down to earth to talk to us and teach us, and that was very amazing. So he called me, I think late in that week, and we went through all my goals and the things I wanted to do with research and clinical opportunities. And he was like, okay, let's collaborate with a few projects. Let's keep in touch. I'll let you know when I have an opportunity for you to come here. And then one day, late in that year, he called me and he was like, hey, I think I finally organized everything here. If you want to come, you can come. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll be there. And I remember I had a friend next to me at that moment, and the friend was like, okay, but how? How are you gonna go there? I mean, how are you gonna pay for this? Because I was making enough money to pay for my living and my medical school, but it's not enough to travel outside of Brazil. So I was just like, again, I'm going to talk to the people who's been teaching me, who's been helping me, my mentors, my professors. And I talked to many of them. I was doing research with this amazing doctor called Dr. Luis Correia, who really taught me how to be a scientist. He connected me with the Maria Emilia Foundation. It's a big foundation in Brazil, and they fund a lot of research projects in health, in education, in medicine. And they really liked my story, and they were willing to support me to come to the US. So they gave me a scholarship. They paid for all my expenses to come here. I came in 2021. It was still middle of the pandemic. So it was very interesting because I was kind of the one of the few students in the hospital, because only the students that really needed to be there were there, and I was one of them. And I had that moment, I mean, they gave me this opportunity. I was like, I'm gonna do everything possible to really learn everything that I can, get to know everyone that I can know. I got to know you in person for the first time, you and your wife, Carol, who's also another great mentor in my story. So that was how it happened. So I know right now there are not a lot of funding available for you to do a clerkship or observership, but there's always this networking that can get you to some institutions that is willing to support students. And the Maria Emilia Foundation really made a big difference in my trajectory, because out of that experience, I could come back to the US as postdoctoral research fellow, and I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, I think your story in many, many different steps of the way, you've shown incredible resilience, as you said, but also this initiative of just searching for the opportunities and going after them and finding the people. And again, looking for these actively and being insistent, persistent is probably a key determinant of success, I think. You know, in this podcast, we like to talk a lot about how people achieve different stages in their career where they're doing really well. And that's a recurrent element. In fact, Dr. Andre Davila, when he was here, he talked about that he loves to talk to people like yourself who ask for that opportunity, because the way he sees it, he said, is that the people who ask for an opportunity are one step ahead of everyone else. You know, so just the fact that you do that you took that initiative, I think says a lot.
Yeah, that's actually my advice for everyone. If you're willing to do something, you go, you ask for. If you're polite, if you're respectful, it's not going to cause any harm to anyone. And if you get a no, that's part of life. You just get over it and you go keep trying until you get your yes. And that's what I did.
Yeah.